What is your biggest question for the Commanders as minicamp starts tomorrow? Minicamp means everybody will be there. We start with our guy, Toothpick. What up, Pick? What's your question?
Hey, what's good, JP? What's up, BMitch?
What's up, brother?
Thanks for thanks for taking my calls. First off, my biggest question is the secondary. Now, Dan Quinn came from the Legion of Boom. We got to see if we fix the Legion of leaky coverage because that secondary has got to do better than what they did last year. You had people that was afraid to tackle. They ran away from tackles. They didn't want to cover. They shouldn't have been on the field. So that secondary is it for me.
That's a good one. And, I mean, the track record of these guys of delivering just elite play from the secondary. You can go with Quinn all the way back to Legion of Boom. And it's kind of funny. I asked Jeremy Chin about that, and he's like, man, everybody growing up wanted to be part of the Legion
Hell
of Boom.
yeah.
And Jeremy Chin's a big guy like that.
Yes, he is.
I don't know that they have a whole lot of other secondary pieces. Because if you think back to the Legion of Boom, all those guys are big and long.
Yep.
Most of their
And
guys are
fast.
a little bit smaller, but Chin definitely qualifies. And I think if you look at what Joe Witt specifically did with the corners in Dallas, man, I mean, it's one thing for Diggs, Trayvon Diggs, who was an elite prospect. I don't think he was a first rounder, but he played at Bama, obviously. His brother was already in the league. So for Trayvon to lead the NFL in interceptions, he was a second rounder, right? But then a year later, Trayvon gets hurt, and then Deron Bland, a fifth rounder out of Fresno State. You know what I mean? Like, that's not a pedigree. At some point, the players always deserve credit. Players make the plays. They're the ones on the field. But the scheme looks like it might be helping these dudes, B.
Mm-hmm.
And
The scheme does help.
And to your credit, JP, to your credit though, Diggs' first season in the league, he was either getting picks or giving up TDs.
Sure.
So
Terry
you see
Burns.
improvement there also.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Great call, Pick. Thanks, buddy. Always
All
good
right,
to hear
brother.
from you. I'm going to keep these phones going. What's the biggest question for the Commanders as minicamp is set to open? Phone number 800-636-1067. 800-636-1067. Our guy Josh is in D.C. Josh, what's your question, bro?
Yeah, my question is, I wonder who's going to emerge as the number 2 wide receiver. And then I want to know, when do you think this team's going to find its identity? What week?
Man,
I hope they start developing that early instead of waiting until week 2 or something. I think throughout training camp, that's when that has to start, define.
So what's our identity right now, then? For our fans and all our listeners, what's our identity?
Right now, we don't know. We haven't been in any pads yet.
What the staff and the players will all tell you is they want to be fast and physical, and they'll throw in violent here and there.
Hey, but the city, the DC is totally changed now because of this. The ownership, the quarterback, everything. It gave us hope. You know what I mean? So it feels like the 90s again.
Totally. Great call, Josh. Thanks,
stuff,
buddy.
brother.
It's interesting when you say the identity. I think for this year, it's hard to answer that because Jaden, like you don't know what Jaden's going to be, what Jaden's going to become, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think fast and physical probably most likely applies to the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
But watching them last week when they did 11 on 11, and we'll get to see some of that this week, they want to be fast on offense too. Like they're going to go up tempo. It doesn't mean no huddle every play, but they're going to move fast and try to create more possessions.
Yeah.
And I think that'll help a young quarterback.
It will. Because I think just look at when you go into a faster pace or even 2-minute offense, the defense has to wait to see what you're doing. It puts
and they can't sub.
Yeah, they can't sub, so it puts them in a difficult situation, which I think gives total advantage to the offense.
Buckle up, Jeff. I don't know if he's here to drop bars or just talk football, but wild card Scotty is on the line. Scotty, what's your question, bro?
What's my question? I'm trying to get Jefferson some Oklahomas. You laugh. I got it. I'll sign a waiver. Let's do it.
Dude,
Let's do it.
I try to keep callers on topic. We're killing it. Everybody's got a question about the Commanders minicamp, and Scotty just wants joke time. But I kind of like it. So
no, I'm with you. Identity. the Austin Eckler signing is it's not getting I don't think it's getting as much love as it should. He's a monster. I mean, what is he? 2 years removed from 20 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this kid, your offense. When I say your offense, I think it's going to be a lot more explosive than the nation's giving it credit. Watch out for my boy from Penn State. He's going to explode this year.
Dotson
is going to silence the critics. This team's poised. I just think they're going to sneak up on a lot of people. They're not getting the credit that they deserve. You got a 1-2 punch with Eckler and Brian. I just think the squad, I think they're going to be a lot better than the nation's giving them credit for.
All right, brother.
Thank you, buddy. Good to hear from you.
Yes, sir.
All right, that's our guy, Wildcard Scotty. Now, Landfill, the segment is, what's the biggest question going into Commanders minicamp? And Scotty just had answers. But, one of the guys said is who's going to be the number 2 receiver. I don't think that's a real debate. I think it's Dotson. I think he bounces back. And earlier in the program, I said last year's offense was broken. It was broken from a lot of different levels, and I'm willing to kind of look past it going ahead.
Yeah, I think Dotson, in his first year, he showed what he's capable of. And I think at this point, I always talk about you hit a point where you have to begin to take ownership of your stuff. Offense or not. Hell, Terry, with all these offenses, quarterbacks that were broken, still perform. You got to get to that level.
BMitch Finlay brought to you by Rude HVAC Equipment. Head over to rude.com to find a contractor near you. And remember, Brian,
if it ain't rude, it ain't right.
Greg is in D.C. Greg, what's your question before minicamp gets started?
I worry about the edge rush, and then I worry about the weak side linebacker. And I was wondering, would they have a linebacker that can check some of the elite tight ends in the league?
So let's start with the edge rush question, because I think that's a very legitimate one. For the last few seasons, as Washington has gone into every new year, we thought, they got Chase and Montez. They should have these monsters on the outsides.
They're gone.
And those two really didn't deliver. I mean, Montez
not what we thought they would do.
Well, dude, even less. I mean, Montez was good, never great. Last year, he finally had a breakthrough year, but he only did it half of the time here. Chase, the injuries, I wonder if they haven't kind of wrecked his chances of a real kind of Pro Bowl type career. We'll see, but obviously the injuries are stacked up there. I think the edge rush question is really interesting, Greg, because they only gave really 3 guys. They signed a ton of free agents, right? Mm-hmm. But only 3 of those dudes got real contracts with guaranteed money in a second year. 2 of them were edge rushers, Dorrance Armstrong and Frankie Louvu. So with Armstrong, you're looking at what he did. And Greg, I got to put you on hold because your phone's making weird noises. But the last 2 years in Dallas, he had 8.5 sacks in 22. He had 7.5 sacks in 23. And that's in kind of limited snaps, right? How much more do you think a dude, do you think they could identify somebody that can give them a lot more?
I think they're going to find out, because what the thing about them is they don't go scheme and then go work through our scheme. They design stuff for individuals. And if Dorrance Armstrong or Frankie Louvu are having some level of an advantage, Andre Jones, whoever, they're going to set them up and have them great. And then even the linebackers, delayed blitzes, they do all of it.
Sure.
So they're going to find ways to get guys going, and they're going to find weaknesses of offensive lines, and they're going to attack it.
In the last 2 seasons in Dallas, Armstrong only played 45% of the snaps.
And he had 7.5 sacks?
And he averaged 8 sacks.
Man, look.
Now, you wonder if maybe he's super fresh, and that's why it would be easy to project from those numbers that if he plays 70% of the snaps, 65, 70, you keep him fresh enough that those numbers should go up. Possible that goes the other way. We don't know. But I think Armstrong is a pretty traditional pass rusher.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other guys they're going to need to generate pass rush, it's not going to be as traditional. If you think about Dante Fowler, Clelin Ferrell, Louvu to me is a real wild card.
Yeah. But if the thing about them, if they can set things up to where, hell, John and Deron having one-on-one battles.
Sure.
They've proven how they can sack. Deron got paid off of his year from 2 years ago. What if you get some of that inside rush and you get guys on the outside that can cause hell? You know, for the most part, over the last few years, the inside guys were getting double.
Well, and add to that, pass rush should not be defined by sacks. Sacks are the ultimate prize there.
Yeah.
But pressures, disruptions,
Yeah.
your pass rush win rate, depending how deep into that stuff you want to believe, like all that stuff matters. I think Armstrong is going to give you 10 sacks. Just the numbers to me project that.
Mm-hmm.
I think what you get out of Luvu will really determine how good this pass rush is. And maybe even a guy like Jamin, if they really are going to use him in that capacity, with that speed. I mean, Luvu in the last 2 years has averaged 6 sacks. He had 7 and then 5.5.
Mm-hmm.
That goes hand in hand with getting more playing time. Now, what's interesting is in Carolina, he was on the field a ton. He played over 90% of the snaps the last 2 seasons with the Panthers. I don't know if his role changes here with a guy like Bobby Wagner out there, but if he can give you consistent pass rush, that's going to make a big difference. But, dude, if you get a game like in the last 2 seasons, Luvu's gone for at least 110 tackles and 5.5 sacks.
Mm-hmm.
You get a year like that next to Wagner, who's probably going to pile up
100 plus.
Yeah, I mean, stats will tell you it looks different. Let's go to MC in DC. MC, what up? What's your question?
Hey, thanks for taking my call, guys. I just want them to be competitive and try to make the game interesting this year. Hope the offensive line protects the guy, because if not, you're going to have another Howe on your hands. That's all. Thanks for taking my call.
All right, man.
You buy that?
What's that?
No, I was asking Brian. Sorry. Thank you for the call. You buy that it's another Howell unless the line protects better?
No. I don't think so.
One thing we got to be
the thing about Jaden gets the ball out of his hands rather quickly.
Exactly what I was going to say.
Howell didn't do that. Even when he had protection, he was hesitant.
One of the reasons Howell slipped in the draft, because if you remember, after his sophomore year, there were real projections that he's a first rounder. And then he stays another year in college, comes out of the draft. He's a 5th rounder. So everybody that's saying, like, oh, my God, Washington gave up on a future Hall of Famer, maybe you'll be proven correct, but he was also a 5th rounder. So the 32 teams in the NFL gave up on him for 4 straight rounds. But one of the knocks on Howell, why he slipped to the draft, is he holds on to the ball too long.
Yep.
And we saw that.
Showed that to us.
Right. And I don't think Jaden will do that. Just watching him, the release is quick. And granted, he's going up against the same defense, but he's identifying pre-snap. I've seen it with my own eyes, where he can identify pre-snap, not all the time, but enough that it looks pretty effective when there's something hot coming, or when he knows he's just got a little gain. He's not scared to dump it off. Just can't go broke taking a profit, man.
And Tom Brady lived dumping it off. And the whole thing about it is move the chains, live to play another play.
Sure.
And you got to get to that point. And I think some guys wait for the big play so much, and that looks like, oh, you get sacked, and you go, oh, man, he got sacked. The line wasn't good. No, line's going to block for a certain amount of seconds, and that's it.
Some guys want to wait to hit the big stuff, like Jeff in college. But if you hit enough of the little stuff, the big stuff gets there. Vince is in Seat Pleasant. Vinny, what's your question?
What's going on, JP? What's up, BMitch, Landon, Jeff? How y'all doing?
Good, brother.
Good, bud.
I think our biggest question for me will be at the wide receiver position. Now, I really love Jahan. I really love Terry. They actually signed my jersey, not to bring it up, 2022 at the Panthers and Commanders preseason game. But
nice.
In the same sense, we did pick up Luke. I just think that we should have made some type of a splash. They should have grabbed another receiver, even if he was mid-tier. Somebody who can come in and change the perspective of the game. I know Terry is going to give us his best. Jahan's going to do whatever he can, considering his size. But in the same sense, he's explosive. Don't really know what Luke has,
but he's a McCaffrey. I mean, shoot. Okay,
You're at least willing to find out.
Definitely. But in the same sense, I still think we should do something else at wide receiver. I don't know if T. Higgins has been signed yet or not, but
I don't think now is the time to do it, honestly. I think you keep your roster flexibility, your cap flexibility, keep all of it, and then if you know Jaden is the dude, then you add like crazy, like what Houston did with Diggs.
Mm-hmm.
I think right now, though, the absolute most imperative question for Washington is Jaden the dude? And if the answer is yes, then you go all in to build around him and you chase this window while he's under a rookie contract.
Mm.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that because that was my second question. But, yeah, I can definitely agree with that 100%, guys. Thank you for taking my call, man.
Appreciate you, Vinny. Take care, bud.
This guy right here, he said, what version of Payne and Allen are we going to get?
Good question.
Can we see them playing like they did in the back-to-back years that they had?
And they can do it at the same time.
Do it at the same time. And I think if they can do that, then you don't have many questions. But if both of those guys can play at their best together, that defense would be potent.
Sure. And, I mean, hell, there's a real question with Johnny Newton, the second-round pick, who had a walking boot on his other foot that we were told has to get surgery on it.
Yeah.
Like, we haven't really thought about that because it's not top of mind in May or whatever month it is now, June. But that's a real thing. I mean, the run of second-round picks with the lack of success is jarring. This is very cool, though. I just saw this tweet from Rappaport. The NFL did this last year, but Washington wasn't that high up. NFL Films, in conjunction with Skydance, which I think is like the production company, have this documentary, basically, from draft night. It's called The Pick Is In. And so they were embedded with the Bears, the Commanders, and the Cardinals. And I think it comes out later this week, June 14th. And a lot of Commanders fans have asked, because a lot of fans love, like, I guess the video hasn't been released of the call from, I'm going to assume it was Peters, but maybe it was Quinn, maybe it was Josh Harris. I don't know who made the call, but of the call from Washington to Daniels telling him they were taking him, I guess that footage hasn't emerged yet. My guess is it's going to be in this documentary, and that should be pretty cool. Stuff like that is really pretty neat. And, the Washington brass has said kind of all along that Jaden was their top-rated quarterback. I believe them, and I imagine it'll be kind of vindicated by the documentary.